Well, guys, this is going to be a bit of a shorter video today, but I needed to talk about it. Obviously, huge news just came out of Rams camp. Oh, I guess the Rams organization, and that's the Cam Akers tore his Achilles while training this week, which is a complete backbreaker for the fantasy community right now. As a Dynasty owner of Cam Akers right now, I was heading into a season looking like I was going to be competing for a championship this year based off of my RB tandem of Cam Akers and Jonathan Taylor. And before I get too much farther, if you're not so familiar with kind of the injury scene for football and exactly what injury means what time frame, a torn Achilles is essentially as bad as it gets, and I would argue has a worse fallout than an ACL injury. We're not going to see Cam Akers this season, most likely, especially with it happening a week before training camp, as opposed to an ACL injury where you're going to see a long timetable for recovery and for return. But I think you can almost always expect a full recovery, and inevitably after that 9 to 11 month period, you're going to see a player get back to being himself. Maybe they come back a little bit rusty, but inevitably they are going to get back to the player that they once were. And Achilles is a totally different ballgame here. You're looking at that long recovery timetable. You're looking at a loss of explosiveness as it's a big deal. I mean, that's where you're pushing off of pretty much when you are running. That's where you get, again, a lot of that quick trigger explosion that you're looking for. And Cam Akers was a player that I talked over and over again this season about how once he hits the edge, he's so twitchy. And that was one of my favorite things about him. He reminded me of Dalvin Cook when he got off tackle. And he was going to be a home run hitter this season for the Rams. And I was super excited because Matt Stafford is now in this offense. I thought this team was going to be sustaining more drives, being a more productive football team, and a better all-around offensive output team. So for a player that has this much talent, the draft capital invested into him, the fact that he had so many things going for him this season, this again is killer. And it's going to open up the door for other players to rise in ADP. Obviously, the biggest person that's going to gain from this is Darrell Henderson, the Rams' #1 reserve, and Malcolm Brown is no longer in this offensive situation. So, there's not going to be a touchdown vulture there. It looks like Henderson's going to be the guy. And thankfully, in that Dynasty League, I do own Darrell Henderson, where I can put him in as a handcuff play, but Darrell Henderson still is not Cam Akers. And Henderson's a bit smaller than I think a lot of us realize. He was more of I don't want to quite call him a scat back at Memphis, but the receiving game and getting out in space and being efficient is more of what he prided himself upon, whereas Cam Akers just has the build of a workhorse running back. So in my draft guide on sizzlefantasy.com, Cam Akers was my RB9 for this fantasy season. I really, really weighed in that crucial upside that he possessed. And I think that while I might have been higher on Cam Akers than some others in the fantasy community, it goes to show, and I think a lot when you see other videos coming out about this topic, a lot of people will talk about how that upside was one of their favorite things about him this season. And so now we're losing out on that. Obviously, Dynasty players are devastated right now. Darrell Henderson's value is going through the roof. And now we kind of have to look at how we reassess the draft board, because Cam Akers was in 12-team leagues kind of the perennial 11th or 12th pick, or he was the guy going with the 13th or 14th pick right at the top of the second round. So a lot of stuff is going to be changing here. I'll probably put out a new running back rankings list top of next week maybe. I've already got my video lineup for this week set. I could alter things, I suppose, but I just put out a running back rankings video earlier on last week, so I don't want to repeat content too much. Obviously, there is new things to talk about here, but you guys, in terms of the 2021 fantasy football season, Cam Akers is pretty much done for, and we're not going to see him this year. I forget exactly what the time frame is for an Achilles tear, but what I can tell you is that it is highly unlikely that we see him return to the field this year, or if he is able to do so, that he does so in a fashion that looks anything like what the potential was before I saw this report off of. I actually saw Sleeper Fantasy, the thing that I do my the service, the platform that I do all my mock drafts here on the channel, or I do those subscriber mocks with you guys every week. They have great up-to-the-minute alerts, news, basically what's going on in the football world. Boom. Sleeper hit me up with the notification. Cam Akers tore his Achilles. I went over, checked it out on the old Google machine. Tom Pelissero, there he was with that tweet. So this one sucks. Let me know down in the comment section below if you own Cam Akers in Dynasty. We'll try and figure out some options for you to reassess that running back position on your team, because that is a big deal, obviously. Let me know your guys' thoughts on the fantasy fallout for Cam Akers this season. Who do you think are running backs that will rise up into the territory that he was being drafted at? Personally, I think an Antonio Gibson might be at play here. A Najee Harris potentially, as other guys that have that elite upside. We know that Coach Ron Rivera wants to get Gibson involved more as a rusher and a receiver. So I think that when we talk about players with that overall upside, or at least players that can compete with what Cam Akers brought to the table, those are two guys that I think of right off the bat. Then you've got your Najee Harris, who's got that big back size and frame, but he's also got the 3-down skill set where he can be used as a receiver and as the prominent force on the goal line. So maybe an Austin Eckler even creeps into first-round territory, and we'll have to break down and discuss how I think that the changing ADP, it's probably going to take us a week or so to see that really change and that really break down here. So maybe, and actually now that I think about it while I'm recording this video, I might actually just put out a mock draft tomorrow with a post Cam Akers lineup and just see what happens, because I think that this is going to have such a big impact. We want to see who that next guy is going to be that's going to step up. So make sure you're subscribed to the channel. You've gone down and liked this video, and stay tuned for that mock draft. I will be doing that sometime in the near future. Maybe it won't come out tomorrow, but that will be a video here in the very near future, as this is by far the biggest news and the biggest injury break that we have at this point this fantasy season. So again, stick around here on the channel, you guys. If you're seeing my content for the first time here, stick around. We've got a lot of awesome stuff. I put out 6 fantasy videos a week, so hopefully you found this video informational, useful, and at least got some sort of closure of how this fallout is going to look here. Again, one more time, it's probably going to be the Darrell Henderson show in Los Angeles for the Rams this year. The upside for that rushing offense went down significantly. Who knows? I'll put it out there. Maybe a Todd Gurley and Los Angeles reunitement is in play here, because he's still on the streets, and they're probably going to need to bring in a new running back now. That's probably just the reality of the situation. I don't think you can just roll into the season with Darrell Henderson, who's had his own little lingering hamstring issues and whatnot. So there's going to be a lot of questions to be answered here in the coming days, but I figured I'd just put this video out here, get you some information about what I see playing out in the immediate aftermath, and then just kind of presenting the scenarios that are going to play out here in the next coming weeks. So again, stay on the lookout for that post Cam Akers mock draft within the next few days here. I do have a mock draft scheduled to be posted on Saturday, but that's obviously 4 days from now, or 3.5 days from now, whatever. So maybe I'll insert one more of those into this week's content lineup and then see what happens from there. Maybe I'll try and get some subscribers in there if you want to hop in that mock draft. The link to the community Discord is in the description of this and every one of my videos, so you can hop in there for absolutely free, and I'll give you guys a heads up when I'm jumping into that mock draft. So take Cam Akers off your board this season. I hate to be that guy, but if you're playing in a league where you've already drafted, find someone that doesn't know the Cam Akers information and try and pull a trade off. I'm just kidding. That's kind of a snake move right there. Don't do that. That'd be pretty cruel to your league mates. But yeah, let me know, you guys. What is your thoughts on the aftermath of the Cam Akers injury? This is a big one. This is big news for the fantasy community. So make sure to let me know that down in the comment section below, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace out.